What is up, guys? Rick Cactus here, and today is an absolutely massive day for Destiny 2. Not only do we have the launch of the Draw exotic quest to go and get the last word, but we also have the biggest Sandbox update, aka balancing update, since Forsaken. To put that in perspective, the one with Forsaken changed the entire gun system. And so that should give you an idea for how big this balancing update is. Guys, if you have a favorite subclass, if you have a favorite weapon, that could be dramatically changing today. Like, there are some changes that will blow your mind. But first off, guys, if you're looking to get some brand new headphones, I've partnered with ASTRO. Check the link in the description down below. That's going to automatically apply a code to let you save some money and help the channel out. That is the definition of a win-win right there. But let's dive right into these patch notes. So firstly, supers. And right off the bat, we have the Gunslinger. If you're one of the few Gunslinger mains, like, life's gonna get a lot easier for you. So for the Golden Gun Super, increased damage to bosses by 40%. Now this includes 6-shooter and Celestial Nighthawk. Wow. So if you are using Gunslinger to melt bosses, and it is still even a strategy to use Celestial with stuff like Argus, well, that just got way easier. 40% is a huge boost, but there's more. So for the Golden Gun 6-shooter, base damage increased from 275 to 300 damage per shot. Also, kills now return a bullet to the Golden Guns magazine. Excuse me, what? But there's more. The Line 'em Up perk doubled precision damage bonus per stack of the buff. The Practice Makes Perfect perk stack limit increased from 3 to 5, and super regen modifier increased by 20%. Moving on from there, the Blade Barrage super, also known as the Guaranteed 1 Panic Kill super. Now we've got impact damage decreased from 150 to 35. Big nerf there, but to counteract that a little bit, explosion damage increased from 150 to 250. And importantly, now this super deals self-damage. So basically you can't run up to guys, cast Blade Barrage right in front of yourself. It's gonna kill you too if you do that. Next up, for the Night Stalker, specifically Mobius Quiver, tethered targets now have the full damage increase rather than needing to be tethered by multiple shadow shots. Additionally, the shadow shot damage bonus to tethered targets was increased Mobius Quiver tether radius by 20%, increased Mobius Quiver tether lifetime, and made it easier to fire successive shadow shots. So Mobius Quiver buffed pretty much all around. Next up, we have Spectral Blades. The bonus damage resistance while in stealth decreased from 15% to 5%, while in Spectral Blades and in stealth, total damage resistance is 62%. Total super duration while invisible decreased by 3.67 seconds. So nerf to Spectral Blades there. Next up, we have the Arc Strider. And remember before Forsaken when everyone would use Arc Striders in PvE to absolutely melt enemies because it lasted so long? Well, that may return because heavy ranged and slam attack damage increased from 220 to 300, and heavy palm blast attack damage increased from 400 to 700. That heavy palm attack, if you're doing it right, when you attack, palm attack, palm attack, you're basically doubling your damage now with this update. That's actually insane, but there's more. The Lethal Current perk, a bonus hit damage has been increased from 100 to 130. The Radiant Flux exotic armor piece, damage bonus decreased from 20% to 13.5%. This change keeps the bonus damage granted by this exotic about the same because it is calculated on a scalar instead of a flat number, and any big changes to the base damage have a large effect on the exotic. So obviously, you know, with the overall buff, the Radiant Flux would be nuts. So makes sense they gave it a little bit of a nerf. And moving on from there, we are finally done with the Hunter, which should give you an idea for how big this update is. We still have the Titan and the Warlock and weapon buffs to go. But for the Titan, specifically for Sunbreaker, sunspots have been buffed massively. The damage increased from 25 to 50 per tick. That is double the damage. That's a 100% damage increase. Wow. Then the Sun Warrior perk. Buff now increases all damage output from the Sunbreaker by 20% in PvP and 25% in PvE, and the buff duration has been increased from 3 to 5 seconds. For the Burning Maul super, spin melee attack damage increased from 65 to 80 per hit, and the slam detonation radius increased from 5 to 6 meters, and improved slam attack projectile tracking. So big buffs all around there. Then we have the Sentinel. The Sentinel Shield Super final melee combo hit damage increased from 300 to 390. Damage to PvE combatants increased by 17%. So if you're using the Sentinel in PvE, you just got a big bonus there. Then the Striker, the Fist of Havoc Super, the Heavy Slam attack, base damage decreased from 325 to 275. But the damage to base, elite, and mini-boss combatants increased by 7% overall. Damage to bosses increased by 23%. Damage to vehicles increased by 60%. Not really sure why they're making those changes, but there we have it. Next up, we have the Terminal Velocity perk. Changed the way that bonus damage from this perk is granted, added a third threshold tier based on how long you are in the air before impact. So arc damage hits per tier increased from 3 to 4. So tier 1, 4 hits, tier 2, 8 hits, and tier 3, 12 hits. So increased damage per arc hit from 100 to 112. Then Code of the Juggernaut. Fist of Havoc shoulder charge energy cost reduced by 83%. What? What are you doing, Bungie? What are you doing over here? Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, well, so that's a thing. And then we have the Trample perk. Can now trigger the energy return every half a second up from 1 second. Moving on from there, we're done with Titan. Now we have Voidwalker. So Cataclysm Nova Bomb, and this was already good. The initial detonation damage increased from 900 to 1,500. The detonation radius increased from 8 to 10 meters. Also, Seeker projectile detonation damage increased from 205 to 300, improved Seeker projectile turning radius and homing to make it more consistent to use against bosses and single targets, and fixed an issue where Seeker projectiles could be prematurely detonated. And guys, oh my goodness, I remember running a Cataclysm Nova Bomb Warlock with the exotic Skull of Dire Ahamkara, the one that gives you more protection and also recharges your super based on how many guys you kill. That was already an extremely effective class to use. Like, break that out in Escalation Protocol, oh my goodness, it's good. And there is so many buffs here. Like, that class with that exotic is going to be insane. But we still have more to go over. The Vortex Nova Bomb. The initial detonation damage increased from 900 to 1,200. The Linger volume damage increased from 10 to 23 per tick. That is more than double damage. But then we have the Nova Warp. Slightly slowed movement while charging. Charging costs more energy. Initial charge cost each time you trigger your super increased by 60%. The sustained drain cost holding increased by 60%. Duration decreased by 6.8 seconds. And decreased super damage resistance from 56% to 54%. Damage against Guardians decreased by 27%. So Nova Warp was definitely the thing running rampant, so it receives a nerf, whereas Nova Bomb received some massive buffs. But there's more. We have Dawnblade. The Daybreak super increased damage against minor, major, and mini-boss combatants by 43%. Increased duration by 3 seconds. Wow. PvE Dawnblade just got a lot better. The Stormcaller Warlock. Stormchant super increased chain lightning maximum target count by 1. And there you go. Guys, finally, we are done with the buffs and nerfs to supers for all 3 classes, and those are huge. Like, that is going to shake up the meta for sure. For me as a PvE player, I really like to see so much different changes in terms of PvE viability. Massive increases to boss damage, massive increases to overall damage for some of the underused subclasses. And I think we're going to see especially a lot of Nova Bomb Warlocks. But now we have the second section of this update, which is weapons tuning. So, auto rifles. Increased base damage on rapid fire auto rifles by 9%. 9% is a pretty big number in Destiny. We've seen 0.04% at one point, so I'm happy by 9%. But there's more. Increased base damage on high impact auto rifles by 5%. Increased base damage on adaptive auto rifles by 6%. Next up, scout rifles. Increased base damage on lightweight scout rifles by 5%. And increased base damage on rapid fire scout rifles by 6%. Also increased all scout rifle PvE damage by 10%. Next up, sniper rifles. Increased base damage of rapid fire sniper rifles by 8%, so you can now two-shot to the body to defeat other guardians in PvP. Big change there. Grenade launchers. Tweaked grenade launcher projectiles to feel more consistent on direct hits, and proximity grenades can no longer impact directly, which prevents special ammo grenade launchers from one-shotting with the perk active, and increased ammo reserve size of special ammo grenade launchers. Then they also increased initial spawn ammo in PvE for special ammo grenade launchers. Then we have bows. Made the effect of draw time from bowstring perks more noticeable, so high tension string, flexible string, elastic string, and polymer string. And the accuracy stat from high tension string was increased from 10 to 15 to better compensate for the slower draw time. But they say the tooltip for the high tension string was not updated to show the larger accuracy increase. This will be addressed in a future update. Moving on from there, we've got some exotic weapon changes. The Legend of Acreus exotic shotgun, range increased by half a meter, PvE damage increased by 50%. That's big. I want to try that thing out. Then we have the Telesto, reduced base damage of each bolt by 19%, increased optics stat from 15 to 20 to be more comparable with other fusion rifles with scope perks, and PvE damage increased by 30% to offset for the nerf. Great changes there, honestly. Trace rifles. Trace rifles now gain additional ammo when picking up special ammo. Reduced output of wave splitter against guardians, reduced 90% on medium damage mode and 27% on high damage mode. Adjustments were made to keep the damage output the same in PvE activities. So it's not going to be nerfed in PvE basically. For exotic armor, tuned energy values on shards of Galanor to accompany changes to the Blade Barrage Super, so they reduce the maximum energy return from 90% to 75% of the total super. Now only returns energy on knife impacts. Reduced energy return on Guizen Vest from 10% to 7% of total super. So 2 big nerfs there. And guys, that is pretty much it. There was some bug fixing and so on. The other somewhat big thing, and I'm just going to put them up on the screen here, was the changes to heavy ammo. They're now spawning a lot less in competitive playlists and stuff like that and Rumble, so you won't have the same heavy ammo spam in those playlists. And again, that's it for this massive update. Shaking up the meta for sure. Big changes. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, found it informative, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. And if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.